Oh, hello, hello, everybody. I'm ready. I'm near my
There
hands.
we are.
And welcome to the Google Hangout with Tamara Younker and myself, Alan Jones. And this is predominantly going to be Tamara doing a whole load of talking about her awesome new tele-series, Radical Relationships. So rather than me hogging it, let's let the lady herself do her stuff. And
Well,
Tamara, over to you.
it's morning here, very early morning here in Colorado. So good morning to those of you in the States, and good afternoon to everyone everywhere over in the across the pond. I am in the well, 3 days into the Symphony of Possibilities with Dane here in Denver, and I have to say, this class is more phenomenal exponentially by far than any Access class I have ever taken. I don't even know what I'm going to say. Like this morning, literally, I slept through my alarm and I was like, okay, what am I doing this morning? Right, a Google Hangout on relationship. What is relationship? I don't even know. Like, reference points are fleeing the building. I don't have, it is, if you have not been to an SOP with Dane, well, I guess you have to, there's a bunch of prereqs. You have to go to an ESB and there's a whole bunch of stuff, but I just have to start out by saying that I really have no words for this class. If they asked me to do a testimonial, I wouldn't even know what to say other than I'm stripping away. This is, I was thinking about it yesterday as I was driving home. I am stripping away, literally stripping away anything that is just not the infinite being, like right. More so than any class I've ever taken. It's so, thank you, Dane.
And how did we get so lucky to have you right in the middle of that?
Does it get any better? Today is our last day, so yeah. Wow. Yeah, okay, relationships. Now I'm focused on the topic.
Yeah. So relationships, radical relationships. Tamara, what is that all about? Tell us.
Well, let me maybe just say why this is something that's so dear to me and what it is that inspired me to do this. I have been doing coaching, energetic work for 16 years and coaching for about 10 to 13 years officially. Like I got my, certified coach practitioner license, which, you need that to be credible in this reality. God, what's it been, about 8 years ago or so, and I just adore working with people around this particular topic of relationship. That's where I started, and then got involved with Access about 5 years ago, and have just been having a wild ride doing foundation level ones. I think it was 1.5 years ago, I started doing my specialty classes on intimacy, which are relationship with everything, including yourself. And I've worked with so many clients in this arena of relationship, and I guess it's just taken me this long to really get, like really get, I know something that's different. I be something that's different, that people are really asking for. And I went to the advanced body class last month, just here in Denver also. And it was kind of a joke that Gary said on the second day, this is sex and relationship day, because all of the questions seem to be oriented around those topics. And as I'm watching people go to the microphone and asking their questions, it was like this big aha moment. I was like, wow, people are really asking for something different beyond what this reality has fed them. Everybody's just sort of bought this predetermined form and structure and way of doing relationship that more and more, it's just not working for them. It's not working for them, and they are desperately desiring something different and looking for that. And I really got it. I was like, okay, I get it. I hear you, universe. This is something that I have the capacity to be a contribution in, and I will stop doing whatever refusal I was doing and honor the request, honor the desires, because I've had private clients as well asking for it. And I think it was a couple years ago, I can't honestly remember, 2 or 3 years ago, that I did a relationship Tele-call series and was asked to even extend it further. So it was one of those, we went longer than I had originally anticipated. And so yeah, the desire is there. And you and I have been talking about taking people, I guess, sort of through this journey. About, in the beginning, relationship really starts with you. You can't kind of create something unless you have a sense of what it is that you desire? What do you desire to create? A lot of people, not relationship isn't for them. That's great. And I happen to be one of those people who enjoys relationship. I have discovered for me that the way that I open most to consciousness is through the vehicle of relationship, because that is where my shit comes up. When I'm in a relationship, you can't hide anything. You know what I mean? Like you can not be in a relationship and think that you have great capacity to be in a relationship, and then you enter into a relationship and you're like, oh wow, okay, this is bringing all my shit up. So I have discovered that if I really want to open to all of me, and that has been my desire from I can't remember when, even before Access, to really open to be all that I am, and this weekend, this SOP, stripping away everything that's not that, stripping away all the lies, stripping away all the conclusions, stripping away everything that I've created as a limitation that's sort of keeping me contained and keeping me less, because, we're the only ones who have the power to do that. I enter into a relationship and boom, it all shows up. I'm like, yay! So in essence, I use it as that vehicle to be more, to be and create more. And I have the point of view. I know it's sort of common people. There's a lot of people out there saying, oh, you have to really work on yourself, and you have to get yourself sort of relationship ready, before you enter into a relationship. And I'm like, not really, because no matter how ready you think you are and how much work you think you've done, when you enter into a relationship, you're going to get triggered. It's just going to happen. So I say, when I'm working with clients, I'm like, you know what? Hop right in, go in, get in there, get started. Even if it's just casually dating, because that's where I started. I mean, I've done this as a deliberate process, a literal deliberate process. After my divorce, gave it a couple years to just sort of like, okay, who am I and what am I doing? And because my divorce was a surprise, a shock. And then when I truly chose to deliberately like start dating again and explore relationship again, this has been an adventure of really one of the grand adventures of my life over the last several years, dating and getting back into relationship in a much more deliberate way, in a way that I'm creating. Because that was one of my awarenesses from my divorce, is I was like, wow, how much was I completely, and I do mean completely, entirely in a fantasy, living in a utopian ideal, completely had my eyes closed, like blinders on. And you're conclusion. What's that? Oh yeah, no, I'm the only one.
No, I haven't done that. No.
Nobody does that. And when my my then husband left very unexpectedly, right after we got married, as a matter of fact, I've talked openly about this for many years, I went into shock, because I really was like, wow, I thought I was so conscious. I thought I was so aware. It really fucked with my perception of who I thought I was and how I thought I was functioning, because I realized, it opened up my eyes to see how much I was really lying to myself in that area. Yeah. And so it's been a deliberate journey for me to get like eyes wide open. I enter into dating and relationship now with eyes wide open, as much as I have the capacity, and still learn more as I play in this arena. But the game playing and the conclusions and everything that was making me so miserable, I realized, I was like, that's it. Like relationship as I learned it, as I bought it, as I've done it, out the window, throwing that in the trash, starting with a blank slate. And I literally started dating with one question: how much fun can I have just meeting new men? like I started that simply. I literally started at the most simple place, got out there, started dating, and then, over the course of years, have entered into relationships, and, and so here we go. Like I'm taking pretty much what I've always known as possible and had never, ever seen on this planet. And I kept looking around and looking around and looking around and going, it's not here, it's not here. And I think part of me didn't believe it was possible. And it wasn't until Access and I started playing with the tools of access, the elements of creation, question, choice, possibility, and contribution. And that little thing called possibility started activating in my world that really didn't exist much before. And I was like, well, maybe this thing that I've always known, had this awareness of is actually possible to bring into fruition, not just to sort of know as this, like, I wish, I hope, I pray, I want someday, I I really made the demand of myself to say, if this is something that I know and something that I desire, then the only way it's going to get created is if I make the demand and the commitment to create it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not giving up, no matter what it takes, no matter how many men I have to meet, no matter what I mean, because you kind of have to have a willing participant.
Sounds like a lot of really good research.
Who wants to play with me? And I have to say, I'm very grateful for all of those men that I have met along the way, that I have played with, because they have been a gift, every single one of them, whether it was, one date or months of dating or, whatever. They truly were a gift in my experiment. So I have worked privately with many, 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 many clients, and now taking all of that awareness, information, tools, and just bringing it into this telecall. Yeah, so there you go. There's my really long-winded answer.
I think that's great, because it gives us a really good feel for where it is that you're coming from. Because I know myself, without kind of getting into the whole blame, shame, regret, and guilt thing, but just to use it for an ease of phrase, I know I've been guilty of using the access tools, brilliant as they really are, to still try and fit in with relationships.
Yeah.
And it's only since talking to you and playing with you, as this has kind of evolved, that I realize how much I've been just using it to try and give me ease with what already is, rather than going, actually, and I know it wasn't working.
Yeah.
So what if you could give us kind of an overview of what the journey might kind of be like?
Yeah, well, it's funny because as you're saying that, I mean, you and I have sort of been talking about creating that journey, right? Like,
yeah,
we know where the idea is that you have to start with where you're at, right? I mean, that's where I started. I started where I was at, and I was like, okay, first things first, got to meet some men. You know what I mean? So it's really starting with where you're at. Are you already in a relationship? Are you married? Are you living with someone? Are you single and hoping to date? Have you gone to the place where, like, I give up, I never want to date again, I can't do this? It's
yeah.
So really meeting you where you at and starting there, and starting with the intimacy that you have with you. That's the thing that I've cultivated, interestingly enough, again, through the vehicle relationship, is cultivating much greater intimacy with me. It's allowed me to really see how I behave, how am I interacting with another person, how am I relating. That's the thing that I've sort of been studying my whole life, and really more intensively the last 10 years is the energetics of relating. I have been a voyeur of people my whole life. I love, people watching, and really not just, watching them, but actually what makes them tick, how are they operating, why do they do the things they do? Like, it's just been a lifelong curiosity. And then, of course, with the tools of access, that has become even more fine-tuned in terms of the realm of energy. And so many of us have no idea, myself included, and even the SOP is showing me how much more I can still have greater intimacy with myself, because we have no idea how we're operating energetically. No. We live in a cognitive space most of the time, and so we're not often aware of energetically, how am I operating, and what impact is that making on the world around me that I'm not really aware of, and how much of my own sort of interior landscape, emotions, or that I've cut off, that I'm not allowing myself to acknowledge, that I'm pretending to suppress, and then it gets sort of blows up here and there. There's a lot of intimacy with you and knowing your own being, right? That gives you a greater capacity to engage with others. It's sort of a simple place to start. And that will be carried through the whole series, because we have this tendency, and again, I'm sure nobody does this on this call or on this. We have this tendency to do this knee-jerk reaction of blame. It's very seductive. This reality supports it. It's everybody and everyone else's. It's not my fault. The government made me do it. You know, like literally, we love to just get into blame rather than look at what am I creating here. And for those who, I mean, I'm guessing most of our audience is into access and is aware that we create our reality. So there's nothing that ever happens to you, ever. And relationship is one of those places where we love to say, you did this to me. You hurt my feelings. You made me angry. You made me go and cheat on you. You know, I mean, there's crazy stuff that we love to blame on our partners. We love to say that things happen to us. We love to say that, you know, we've been in this long string of abusive relationships. I keep, you know, the same partner, and this keeps happening to me. This keeps happening to me. It doesn't happen to you. You create it. And so, so that space of intimacy with you, that space of being with you, is really something that's going to carry you through the whole series, and it's just going to impact every area of your life, not just relationship. So obviously we start there and spend a good amount of time looking at what's it going to take to have greater intimacy with you. And what do I mean by intimacy? Let's just quickly say that that's absence of barriers to anything and anyone. Cool. When you're functioning from those 5 elements of intimacy: honor, trust, allowance, vulnerability, and gratitude, that.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, isn't it? In order for relationships to work, you need to have that. What if the person, say, that you're currently in a relationship in, has no idea and is not really interested in that? How do you, I mean, but the rest of it kind of, it can, you know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to just chuck away the baby with the bathwater, but
yeah,
how do you work with what is?
That's a great question, because just because you're choosing greater consciousness, you're choosing greater intimacy with yourself, you're choosing to have more barriers down and receive, because barriers down is about receiving more. If you're already with a partner who's not interested, they're like, yeah, consciousness, consciousness, who cares? You know, that's just not their thing, or they're kind of like, love me as this is me, love me as I am. And we will talk about that. I'm going to talk about, you know, there's something to creating a relationship with somebody who is, that you can talk to about, this is what I desire. I desire to be in the space of constant fluid motion of creation with a partner. And so there's that, and that's probably more when we talk about radical relationship as we get into the advanced section.
Yeah.
Getting more into what is it to really be in a creative evolutionary relationship with another person who's choosing that with you.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking God, is that delightful. And really, really different and sort of courageous and no reference points, right? Like if you're creating something beyond the standard predetermined form and structure of this reality, you are off in, you know, a territory beyond reference points, and you are pioneering something entirely new that you two, the two of you, are creating together. So there's kind of going to be this space of what is it to just create something different in the relationship that I have, if I'm already with a partner, and, you know, I just want to create something greater that's going to contribute to both of us in that space. And go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just, what I'm becoming aware of is almost like this panic from people who are either listening now or kind of going to be listening in the future. About, yeah, but my relationship in some ways is working really well now. What if after doing these classes, it's like, do I then have to finish this relationship and sleep around? Or, you know, it's just like all of this stuff is like, oh my God, and I just don't want that. And all of the stress and all of this anxiety around letting go of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the beauty of, I would say that also fits in radical relationship. Radical relationship means you're always in command. You're in the command position. You choose. This is your choice. I love to be, like, as the facilitator, when I work with people privately or even when I'm facilitating classes, as a facilitator, I am truly in the surrendered position to your desire.
Mm.
What do you want to create? I have no, like, I couldn't possibly know what to create in relationship that's going to work for you. I couldn't possibly know. However, I do have the tools and the questions and the way of actually opening you up so that you know. Because sometimes people are like, well, I don't even know.
Yeah, I have no idea what I'm looking for in a relationship.
Right, or what is going to work for me. I don't know what's going to work for me, right? So this is part of, as we get into the the topic for the second call is sort of debunking the myths and lies of relationship. So I want to really strip away everything that you've been told has to be, so that you can begin to discover what does work for you. And that's going to be different for every single individual. And I think that's the difference. Again, radical relationship is about creating without a template, without a form and structure, without saying, well, here's the destination, and I have to go out and grab some partner who I can cram myself inside this predetermined form and structure that really doesn't work for either of us, and then try and force ourselves to make it work inside when, like, there's no space and it's contracted and I can't be me. No, this is about really creating what works for you in whatever fashion, whatever, like, that's what what lights me up and turns me on, is assisting people in creating what's going to give them the greatest joy.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to give you the greatest joy in relationship? Gary and Dane talk about, Access kind of gets this, oh, Access is anti-relationship. And they say, no, we're not anti-relationship. We're anti-bad relationship. Seeing somebody in a miserable relationship, the measure of success in this reality for relationship is longevity.
Yeah.
And I go, really? Because my parents have been married for 50 years next March. And there is nothing about their relationship that I would like to duplicate. You know what I'm saying? Like, but people are gonna, come to their 50th anniversary party and congratulate them, and because look, you did it, 50 years, and I'm like, yeah, they endured hating each other for 15 years. Good for them. You know what I mean? I have a completely different way of, really measuring. It's kind of a funny word, but what do you measure the success of a relationship? If it's not longevity, and for me, I actually had a conversation with this recently, and said, I want to know that I am constantly, deliberately expanding into more of what's possible for me to be and what's possible for us to create. And if that happens in, I dated this guy 3 dates. Years ago, I went on 3 dates with this guy, and we had such an immediate, intimate connection, and we were able to just, like, expand into this space of intimacy together for 3 dates, and then we didn't choose to see each other anymore. But I call him, it's funny, 3 Date David, and I'm like, oh, I have such gratitude for 3 Date David, because even in that short space of 3 dates, I expanded so much. I was so much more after 3 dates than some people can, in 50 years of marriage. So what are you measuring the success of your relationship by?
Sorry, that just,
I know.
really badly made. Just, my mind's gone off. Going, woo! I remember this guy I went out with, and we called him Microwave Dave because he was done in a minute. But anyway. Anyway, back to 3 Date Dave and Tamara.
Yeah, so I know that even when I got married, we didn't have that till death do us part. Like, we were like, really? That's sort of 19th century, I guess. But we recognized that what we desired is to be a contribution to each other in the greatest way possible, so that we can, be more of us. And for me, this is, again, for me, that I know I can't give you forever. I can't give you certainty of till death. I won't do that. Yeah. Because I won't sacrifice me for the relationship, and that's obviously something we're going to talk about in the series. But I can't. Here's what I do know. I absolutely know this, because this is the way I choose to be and create relationship, is that when and if, I might choose it for the rest of my life, but I won't, lock myself into that as a conclusion, I know that when and if someday we do part ways, we will both be so much greater for it.
Yeah.
We will look at this relationship as a gift to both of us because we've been willing to be that contribution with all of the bullshit stripped away.
What I'm getting from what you're saying is that if your relationship happens to last 50 years, and it's because you're choosing it rather than because you feel
every day.
Because, you know, I mean, Bill and I have been together over 21 years, and yeah, there have been some really kind of crappy times, but one thing we've always had from the beginning is that we'll just keep choosing, and this is even before I'd come across Access, was we'll just keep choosing it as long as it's fun.
Yeah,
it's always been that we're not together because we do feel tied. So
exactly. Yeah, I mean, you and your partner will discover for you what's the, like, I create in a space of like caring and kindness.
Yeah,
that's sort of the thing that we both choose. That's the space will always be infused with caring and kindness, always.
Yeah.
And so in that space of caring and kindness, if he was to meet somebody that for whatever reason he was like, you know, our journey together has been great, and now I'm going to go choose somebody else or whatever. I would say go with my blessing. You know, like I don't want to, like, you mean, okay, someone's going to grow your life in a different way than you and I have been, or this person would you feel right now would be a greater contribution to you, or whatever. Like the reasons don't matter. I'm honoring their choice and go with my blessing.
So, because I've been part of the kind of whole helping you pull this together stuff, I'm privy to some of the subjects that you're going to be playing with, and I'm really excited.
You've got the inside track.
I have. And because I have loads of questions that I want to ask, that we've only got 15 minutes, and it would, if I do it all now, then there'd be no point in having your telly series, so I'll just shut up. But it's like using the title in one of the kind of the advanced series, Unlocking Possibility Through Desire.
Yeah.
And then, you know, this kind of let creation begin. So those two really intrigue me and kind of get me really excited. So can you just like skip the rest of them and then just come and listen to those two?
Well, and this is one of the things I've noticed again in all these years of coaching, is that you hear a lot of people complaining, right? We're kind of a planet of complainers in a lot of ways. And metaphysical people would be like, stop that complaining and have a positive attitude, and, you know, just think positive thoughts. And like they try and I've learned, I'm like, you know what? All those complaints actually have a lot of useful information. So I don't tell people to like cut that shit out, like stop complaining. I actually explore the complaints. I actually am like, well, let's look at that. What is that, you know? And what I often discover underneath, if I go a little deeper into start asking questions into that complaint, is I discover that there's a whole world of desire down there that nobody ever paid attention to. So they're often unspoken desires, unacknowledged desires. Sometimes the person isn't even aware of it, right? They may have locked that away in a closet, you know, when they were 6 years old, and said, well, I can never have that, so I don't even want to know that I have that desire, because living with the pain of not having whatever it is that you desire is too great. And so I'm just going to put that in a closet, lock the door, throw away the key, and pretend I don't even know. And in a way, I did that very thing with relationship, period. Like I had, from a very young age, watching my parents and going, that's definitely not what I would like to have as my relationship. And so I would often just kind of, I maybe daydream about it, like, and kind of, I'll try and make this story quick, as if I could do anything like that. I read The Place, Gary Douglas's novel, The Place, when I first came to Access, and I got about halfway through, and I was so upset. I was crying, and I was so upset, and I got so angry, I literally took the book and I threw it across the room, and I was like, fuck you, Gary Douglas. And I was so shocked and surprised by my reaction to reading this book. I was like, oh my God, like I was really, really upset. So of course, that's a signal to me to ask questions. Anytime I get triggered or have that kind of emotional reaction, I immediately go into question. And it took a while. It took a while before the awareness really came. And what I realized was that I knew that I desired something so much greater in a relationship than I had ever seen. And I had literally taken that desire, like I just said, and I put it in the closet and locked the door and threw away the key because I could never have that.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the conclusion that I'd never seen it, didn't exist on this planet, I could never have it. So I just sort of, and then I did relationship this reality way. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up in a divorce. And, so when I read his book, it brought all of that back. And I was angry at him because I was like, now I have to live with the pain of never having this. Oh. And of course I pot and pocked that. And then and that was when that sort of unlocked that for me. And I was like, that's when I started to say, you know what, I can create this. Possibility is on my side. Possibility has my back. If I desire this and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to create it, I can have it.
Mm. Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like, what demand are we willing or even unwilling to make of ourselves that if we made it would create something completely different? Because all this stress and energy we put into trying to create, because how often do we try and work out the relationship? It's got to be me, or it's got to be them, or whatever it is. And like I said, I've been using all the tools of access to try and make relationship work, rather than just asking the question, which is where you're coming from. This desire-based kind of relationships. Is actually, what do I desire and require? And am I willing to be and do whatever it takes to have that, whether that's with Bill or whether it's with a number of different people, whether it's with a woman,
right. Right.
Yeah.
And the key is to be vulnerable enough, because interestingly enough, we sort of use this predetermined structure of relationship kind of as our protection of like, well, this is how, if I can just get this right.
Yeah. Rather
than willing to be like really open up, like really, I'm going to open myself up and I'm going to be vulnerable with another person.
Yeah.
This is really a key to creating a relationship beyond this reality, or even having more in the relationship you already have, is the willingness to open yourself up to this person. And it is incredibly vulnerable to ask for what you want.
Yeah.
It is incredibly vulnerable to reveal your desires to yourself. Because you have barriers against rejection, right? Like they've made, if somebody says no, they've made that mean all kinds of things about them. And so the idea that they would ever ask a question with the possibility that it would come back as a no, and they're like, oh no, I'm not even gonna ask that question, because if they said no, I would be devastated, or it would mean, or XYZ. So there's the key piece of vulnerability, really, to create more in any relationship. In any relationship, to create more as a single person, in your life, period, is there is a degree of vulnerability that's required.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I totally get why the elements of intimacy are so key for all of this. It is that willingness to be vulnerable, to have gratitude, to be in allowance of you, trusting you, honoring you. Because how often do we kind of, we talk about the kingdom of we, and how often do we exclude ourselves from that?
Yeah. Yes. Well, and I don't know if I said this already, but contribution is a huge part of relationship that I don't really hear anybody else talking about. No. This reality is service oriented. So we think of ourselves in service to something greater, in service to our partner, in service to our family, in service to, and service, the energy of service is about sacrificing. Like, I'm going to sacrifice my being for something greater. And I mean, in the United States, it's like, this is how we brainwash all of our soldiers to go off to war, right? Like, sacrifice you for something greater called our country. Yeah. And I'm, okay, what if, that's one way of doing it. What if we actually acknowledge the contribution that we are, each of us, and rather than exclude our being in service, we include our being in contribution.
Yeah.
You can't really do a relationship in a generative way without including you. And then it becomes a contribution, not just for you, but for your partner. And that's a completely different energy than the way most people function through this energy of service and sacrifice.
Well, I guess, yeah, and the part for that is if you're not willing to acknowledge the contribution you be, how the hell can anybody else?
Yeah, you excellent point. Thank you. Yeah, and that is actually at the root of so much misery and distraction. And I mean, Gary has the book. Whoops, just the name just went right out of my head. Divorceless relationships. There we go. Divorceless relationships. And that's what I've discovered. When you are functioning from including you and honoring the contribution that you are, then everything changes. Like everything, it all turns 180 degrees, and the way that you operate and the way that you engage, and so much of the trauma just disappears. So that's going to be obviously a thread throughout the whole series again.
So I'm conscious we've got about 5 minutes left. So
yes, I noticed that.
Yeah. And I'd love to do
it's a quickie.
But this, for everyone watching, this is the taster for what you're gonna. This is just literally like a tiny little amuse-bouche even for the before we can get on to the entree of the start of the call. So if people want to kind of get involved and really get down and dirty, as it were, with your tele-series, what happens next? How do they do that?
Thank you. Yes, there is a page on my website, which is tamarayounker.com or accessinfinitebeing.com. Either way, you can find it. And Radical Relationship page gives you a little blurb on the different topics that I'm going to cover. And obviously, there's none of that is set in stone by any means. I'm really going to follow the energy, and your questions will create the class. Your desires will create the class, where you want to go, what you want to create, and then this will be like I said, just taking you on that journey of where you're starting, where you're at, and then where do you want to go? Because at the end of the Tele-call series, my desire is that you have a sense of the tools and the information that you've gathered through the 8 weeks, and you can go out and really begin to apply that. Because this is, I don't care how much information you get from anywhere, not just me, but any source. Information without application is sort of useless. And so this is taking the understanding, taking the tools, taking the information, and practicing it. That's what I've been doing for many years in my life. Is practicing the understanding, practicing the tools, practicing the information. So anyway, sidetrack there. There's a registration button for the beginning series. If you just want to jump into the beginning series, there's also a registration button for the full series on that page. And we start on Thursday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So just for those people watching, it's this Thursday the 30th, and that's 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. UK, which in Brisbane, if you're joining us from down under, will be, I think, 5 o'clock in the morning. So not so bad. I'm
so glad you know that. I'm like, what time is it in Australia? I don't know.
Yes, so Pacific, that would be 4 hours before. That'd be 11 in the morning, isn't it? Pacific? No, noon. Is that right? Noon.
Yes. Noon. Correct.
My apologies. So noon Pacific. So yeah, and
all of the calls will be recorded. There'll be clearing loops. There's going to be a private Facebook group for people to interact with each other, because that support system I find is huge. And then you can ask me questions. I'll be popping in there and supporting that as well. And how does it get any better? What else is possible?
Yeah, I think this, if for me, because I've been kind of helping Tamara with the whole thing and contributing to the creation of it, it's like this has been really exciting for me to see it right from scratch. And I was delighted when you asked me. I mean, I really was just blown away because as I said, I've been looking for something different, but because the human mind, hasn't experienced it, it's like,
yeah.
You need someone just to give you, so that, for me to be clear, this is not about giving people a blueprint for the perfect relationship. It's about giving you, opening up possibilities for you to create the relationship that works for you. Because what if every relationship is different and
it is
every 10 seconds? Because that's the thing.
It is.
Yeah. Like, wow. And what if that's okay?
Yeah.
So just before we go, is there anything else that you would like to say? I mean, I would just like to invite anyone who's listening to this, now or afterwards, please, if you want something different, if you seriously desire something, well, not even seriously, if you truly desire something different in your life, come and join it, because let's change the world. But Tamara, anything else you want to add before we finish?
Yeah, and I do, like, it's been, I've been saying this for a while now, like starting a radical relationship revolution, in a sense. Like, I would like to see the way that we relate to one another on this planet totally different. So beyond just, we're talking about relationships, but beyond that, just how do we relate to one another? Living on a world where kindness prevails. True kindness prevails. And it's not a fake, it's not I have to be nice, and it's not polite, and it's not because, but we truly have a kindness that we're choosing to be with ourselves, and that kindness actually overflows into the way we relate with others. And there's just so many ways in a predetermined structure of relationship, and the way that we've learned to do relationship, and the rules of engagement that we tend to follow, that actually obstruct that. Yeah. And so dismantling that and creating something different. I love to destroy. Destroying is fun for me. So if I get to, if I get any chance to destroy that predetermined structure of relationship on this planet that continues to perpetuate the misery and the suffering and the trauma and drama, you bet your ass I'm going to have fun with that. And equally as fun to create something entirely new.
Absolutely. Awesome. Tamara, thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Alan, for hosting this, because I don't know how I would have put it to, if I had tried to do this morning myself, I'd be like, SOP.
Well, there you go. What if you did create it? Just, anyway, that's just. So if people have any other questions, you can either pop them on we have a Facebook. Sorry, I'm moving around different screens. I am multitasking here because I'm such a humanoid. There is a Facebook event with the whole Radical Relationship series on it, where you can post questions there.
Yes, please do.
Or you can, if you either email or message Tamara directly, or whack it to me and I can pass it on to her. But this series is about creating relationships with everyone. So yeah, come and join in, come and have some fun, ask some questions. It's going to be your class. So yeah. It
will be. It truly will be. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Alan. And I know you have you have our radio show to do here in about 15 minutes. So
I've got 3 minutes, or I get told off by Christine McIver. So I need to run. Yep. I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you very much for coming, everyone.
Bye-bye.